Check,
Um,
check.
all right, all right. So we got Captain CHAATAZA out of I.S.U.P.K. And we finna do some going over this chart, man. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna fall back a little bit. I'm gonna get a platform to the brother. Again, let me say this really quick. If you decide to call in, when we open up the phone lines, if you decide to call in with respect, all right? Nobody's gonna disrespect you. Don't disrespect the guests. You know what I mean? If you agree, you agree. You don't. That's cool. You know what I'm saying? But let's get some edification. Let's learn a little bit. And if you don't agree, again, it's okay. But I'm gonna get the floor to the brother. Go ahead and let him introduce himself. I'm pretty sure all y'all know him, but for those of y'all who might not, it's Captain CHAATAZA.
You understand? Well, first things first, you know what I'm saying? I just want to say Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shah Barakathum to all my brothers, Yahweh Shemal Atah Ba'Shem Yahweh Shah to all my sisters. I am Captain CHAATAZA, the Israelite School of Universal and Practical Knowledge, start out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commandant General YAHANNA. I'm also, just bear with me 1 second, because I'm also, I took your advice as to what you said earlier as far as simul streaming. So we're also live right now on Cross the Line Radio. So I'm just trying to make sure all the sound's right. And then definitely as far as what you were saying is this is definitely for people who are genuinely interested in trying to learn about this. Now, if you have a discrepancy or you don't understand, you know, definitely call up. It's definitely something we can hash out. One of the main things that I notice about this topic is people tend to speak on it either biasly or ignorantly. You understand? And meaning that they haven't done any research. They just looked at it and stated, oh no, that can't be true. You understand? Or the main arguments that I've actually even seen against the 12 tribe chart, you understand, is colorism and the Bering Strait. And colorism is for slaves. And as far as the Bering Strait, it's a theory, and that's also something that we destroyed. We've been teaching this since 1969. And even outside of that, you understand, there's been more and more and more archaeology that's been added over the years. You know what I'm saying? Like the scripture says that the earth shall help the woman. And that's why there's archaeology popping up even all around the world recently, so on and so forth, which just proves that Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians of Indian or Negro descent on their father's side are the true Israelites of biblical antiquity. Now, this is another thing too. Anybody who also, you understand, doesn't understand the chart or needs more than just like the dialogue that we're doing here, I did a lecture in July out in Chicago. You understand? Big ups to Captain Desariat, you understand, for getting me involved with that, as well as Captain Mawakwa for inviting me to his city, showing the utmost hospitality. And I did damn near 3.5 to 4 hours, you understand, worth of material. And that was actually even rough to condense because I had about 18 to 20 hours worth of material. And that's not even, you understand, to go outside of. I also made sure that every single piece of anthropolitical data and archaeology that I used is something that's either irrefutable or, even for people who like to use the Smithsonian, so on and so forth, was backed up. But there's something more important. They had this chart before any of the archaeology. You understand? Like Ariah got that vision, you understand? And this was passed down to the priests and prophets of the Israelite School of Universal and Practical Knowledge before anybody had a clue about Hebrew stones being found in Puerto Rico. Before they knew about the Los Lunes stones, you understand, which is damn near one of the oldest 10 commandments, you understand, found, written in ancient Hebrew down in New Mexico. Before they found the Decalogue stone, the Keystone, you understand, so on and so forth, all these different artifacts scattered throughout the Americas. Before they started finding shield Davids in, you understand, I mean, from Nicaragua all the way on up into Canada. Before they started breaking down the North American Indians' language and coming to the conclusion that from Canada all the way on down to Peru, all the way on down to Argentina, and then across to all the Antilles and Caribbean, you understand, that all of them were speaking Hebrew. So once again, that could only be of the Lord. So when we did this breakdown, you understand, or rather when the lecture came through, you understand, the one thing that I always start to see is that people are very ignorant when it comes down to our history. When I mean our history, I mean, you understand, everybody knows about the transatlantic slave trade involving who we consider Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. You understand? Which would be so-called Negroes, West Indians, and Haitians. So now, what happens is that people are very ignorant when it comes down to the topic that the tribe of Gad, the so-called North American Indians, were also shipped abroad on slave ships, on cargo slave ships. Do you understand? They were sent to England. They were sent to the Caribbean. Same thing when it comes down to the Taino, to the Arawaks, to the Caribs. When Christopher Columbus came over here, the transatlantic slave trade started with the Tainos. And these are all different, you understand, aspects and areas, you understand, that we brought out in order to line everything up. You know what I'm saying? Now, is there anything specifically that you want to get into? Because I can't just sit down here and do the whole lecture for 3 hours all over again. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, I don't think you could. That was a long lecture. Well, I'll tell you what. Basically, what I want to do is I want to dive right into questions, if that's good with you.
Okay.
Because because like I said, like you just said, a lot of people have, certain understandings or lack of, and that includes myself also. So I already see questions popping up in the comment section. Listen, if you got a question, Sister Rhoda, I got your question already written down. I asked that one. I got a few questions for you, Cap. And I'm gonna open up the phone lines if you want to start that route right now, and then we just can get rolling because, like you said, you broke it down like really quick. You said that the before Ariah got division, then you guys, there was knowledge of the 12 tribes chart. So let me ask you this quick question, because this is a big one that always comes up that I see a lot, and I don't know anything about it. So I'm asking from an ignorant standpoint myself. A lot of people have this video floating around where I don't even know who the guy is, honestly, that says that.
I know the video, and I don't know who the hell he is either.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. So I mean, so we don't even know what this video come from, or when it came, or where it came from, or what. He has no facts behind it. Because I remember having a conversation with somebody. So I was like, according to law, we're supposed to have witnesses, right? Where's his witness? I never saw any witness in the video, but that video has circulated as if it's gospel, and a lot of people have taken it as such. What do you say about that?
I mean, I think that there's definitely certain principalities out there, and it's like when you start talking about, you understand, Jesus being black, you'll literally have, you understand, so-called Judites that'll turn around and say, Jesus ain't no nigga, straight up and down. Like, they'll be completely opposed to it because that's just one of the things that is supposed to be suppressed in the earth. Because if it comes out that this record, which created, you understand, I mean, every major religion on the earth, the three major religions is Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. And all of that comes from the scriptures. If you find out that this record, these religions, this book, these lands belong to niggas and spics, it crushes the entire establishment. So there's certain things that cause an uproar in the earth, and the 12 tribe chart is one of them, because that's our identity, and that's the last thing that they want us to know is who we are, and for the 12 tribes to unite, because that was Yahweh Shah's mission in the first place. So as far as why they're saying that, once again, like as you stated, where are the witnesses? Why are we just taking it for face value? Like, what we should do is we should investigate. Like, anybody who has an actual issue with the chart, why don't you go and look at the evidence first? Like, it's extremely ignorant for you to turn around and just dismiss something without hearing the entire argument first. I mean, that's straight scriptural. You have to hear the entire matter before you can judge it. So that's hearsay. You get what I'm saying? Like, there's tons of rumors. There's tons of, you understand, trash that people talk. Doesn't mean that we should take it for face value. I don't know who that cat is. I don't know his pedigree. You get what I'm saying? And like you said, not too many other people do either. So I'm not going to take that for face value either. What I do know is that prophetically, anthropologically, and archaeologically, it's flawless. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, cool. Somebody asked a question. It's the sister. She said, how does the 12 tribes chart only consist of northern, central, and southern America when we're scattered among the four corners of the world?
You know, that's something that I see come up a lot of times, and once again, mainly because of ignorance. If you notice, Judah doesn't have a geographical location. Judah is just the so-called Negroes. You understand? Now, a lot of people also don't know, like, we are scattered across, but you would have to be some kind of fool to not believe or not understand that the bulk of our captivity is inside of America. That if you go and you do the numbers, 99 million so-called Negroes just died crossing the Middle Passage. That means they brought millions of us here to America. Everybody's always worried about some Israelite in some random country somewhere. Not saying that they're not our brothers, but can we care about the people in Camden that no one cares about? Can we care about the people in Compton that no one cares about? In Roxbury, you understand? So on and so forth in all these different areas. So we are scattered to the four corners, but we're talking about the bulk of these populations. We're talking about the bulk of these tribes as to who they are and where they went. I mean, Kobe Bryant was from Italy. We know there's Israelites in Italy. You got Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman has about 37 brothers and sisters over in Vietnam because his father was in the military. You understand? Found him a Moabite, married her, and then had children there. So are we scattered everywhere? Yes, but you're a Judite if you're here or if you're in Alaska. You understand? If you descend from the Taínos or the Caribbean Indians, you understand, depending on which region, you'd be from the tribe of Simeon or Ephraim, no matter where you are. Does that mean Puerto Ricans are only on the island of Puerto Rico? No, there was a Puerto Rican diaspora. There's a whole bunch of us in Chicago, a whole bunch of us in New York. But if you follow where we are and you understand as far as who we're related to, that's our identity. So for you, like once again, it's even same thing. We know that there's a lot of so-called West Indians who were sent over to the UK that know that their people is from Jamaica. So therefore, they be from the tribe of Benjamin as well. So the reason as to why that the chart covers mainly the Western Hemisphere is because that's the bulk of our captivity.
So you're saying too, also, what I'm getting from that is, let's just say you were over in, I don't know, let's say you were over in Africa preaching, then the chart would look different to account for those in those particular areas. Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
Well, for the most part, but once again, like, you know, there's such a small remnant of us in Africa anyway. And that's another thing. Like, people are always trying to, you understand, include the Yoruba or the Igbos when they're two of the most, you understand, powerful groups in that area of West Africa. And that's one thing that we got to get away from. There's something that, listen, are Israelites the greatest people and the chosen people on the face of the earth? Absolutely. But what you have to understand is that when it comes down to history, more so recent history, we lost. We took an L. So stop going and looking for somebody who's glorified, you understand, who's sitting in high seats in the governments and all that. You look for the people in the barrios. Look for the people in the reservations, for the people in the ghettos, for the people who are oppressed, for the people who actually fit the curses. Because there's one thing that I don't understand. Even when people try to go over to Africa to find somebody, they're always picking somebody that never lost their identity. So you're telling me that the Mexicans who went into slavery, you understand, were destroyed by the conquistadors, conquered, lost their identity, have the most Hebrew artifacts out of any single one of the tribes, don't fit the curses, which is complete. I can cuss on here?
No.
No? All right. Just so I know. BS. You understand? Straight up and down. But you're going to go and find me some Hamitic convert, you understand, who never lost anything. They've been fine for the last, I mean, what, 20, 30, 40 generations? It don't make no sense to me.
Hey, what you just said was interesting. So the Mexicans have the most, you say, artifacts out of anywhere?
I want to say it's between the Mexicans and the North American Indians that I found the most archaeology. I'm talking down to the Mexicans were the so-called Mexican Indians were wearing phylacteries. They found, you understand, shield of Davids inside their earrings, inside their temples. Like, there's more archaeology down there and amongst Gad, the so-called North American Indian, than I found for anywhere else. Straight up and down.
Okay, that part's amazing. That's amazing. And if there's anybody watching who's saying, okay, well, I mean, our brothers is, all right, so here's the thing. We on here, 12 tribes chart, real or fake. The brothers just dropped some knowledge. Anybody in the comment section, what do you have to say to that? Like, how do you respond to that? Is it by chance? Is it a coincidence? Because, you know, you can only see a coincidence so many times. You know, if something's that happening that many times back to back, come on, you got to have common sense. It can't be a coincidence.
And if I may, you know what I'm saying? I don't mean to cut you off, but just to piggyback off what you said, if you go and you take a look at the lecture that I did, I took a collection of explorers, but basically there was different narratives and different sources that I took from, and it was over like a 400-year period. You understand? It was from the 15th century, you understand, up to about maybe the 17 to 1800s, you understand, maybe even 1900s. And I'm talking about people from different countries, people from Spain, people from Germany, people from Italy, you understand, all who had different vocations. Some of them were friars, some of them were priests, some of them were conquistadors, some of them were explorers, some of them were sailors. And every single one of them traveled into a different region inside the Americas. And every single one of them all came to the same conclusion, that these people have to be the lost tribes of Israel because of their language, because of their customs, that they all had a Sabbath day every 7 days, that they all had a feast around the time of Passover, that they all had unleavened bread, that they all, you understand, sacrificed fruits, first fruits, that when they went to war, they carried an ark with them, that they circumcised, that they would bathe after certain things because Israel had laws of cleanliness, that if you go and you look at their culture, they didn't have religion, but they followed Levitical law. Because you got somebody down there who's a layman, you understand, who's a friar, who's a priest. He's reading the Bible all day. And he's sitting down there trying to be a so-called humanitarian, studying the North American Indians. And then he starts looking at the Bible, looking at them, and saying when their women are on their menstrual cycle, they separate from them. They're not having sex before they go to war. They're purifying themselves. They have a fast day around the Day of Atonement. What's going on here? And it all starts to fit together. So you're going to tell me that all these sources, all these artifacts, over 400 years, all of this is for naught? No, I don't think so. And like you said, I think it's way more than coincidence. I think it's got to be the truth.
Right. That's a lot of copying if it is, right? Let me pull one back up. One brother said something that made... He said, not all Mexicans are Israelites. Check out the black Mexicans. So he's, I guess what he's stating is that, you know how the chart, like you say Mexico, since we talk about Mexico, and this is my understanding, tell me if I'm wrong. All right, well, you say the Mexicans are Israelites. We know not everybody in Mexico is an Israelite. Right. This is giving you a general idea of where these particular brothers could be. Like, here is Mexico. We got them in Mexico. I think that's the general message, correct?
Okay, if anybody was paying attention to what I had stated earlier, right? I stated that the black Hispanic or so-called black Hispanic and Native Indians of Negro or Indian descent on their father's side. So if you go to Puerto Rico, right? They say that Puerto Ricans are composed of mainly 3 races, which is really 2 races and 3 tribes of people, 2 nations from 3 different tribes. They say that there's Negroes there, they say that there's Tainos there, and they say that there's white people there. Well, if you were from Spain, you would be an Edomite. If you were a Taino, you would be an Ephraimite. And if you just so happened to stop at Puerto Rico for a slave port and you were a Negro, you'd be a Judite. So we're not saying that every single Puerto Rican or every single Mexican or every single Brazilian, we're talking about those of Negro or Indian descent. And even the term Indian is a recent term that they were using because the Indians were called Negroes too when they first got here. I brought that out in the lecture. That's what they were calling the Indians in Brazil. That's what they were calling the Indians in Mexico. They were calling them Negroes. That is a recent classification that we've just been divided by. So the same way Jamaicans aren't West Indians, they're not savages from the West. These are just recent terms. So we're not talking about the conquistadors. We're not talking about those from Spain and Portugal. We're talking about those who were a part of the Aztecs, the Incans, the Mayans, you understand? The natives, the indigenous people of the Americas. But the problem is people get so caught up on complexion. Like, if we're going to say that you are the seed of your father, then Bob Marley's white. Then Tia and Tamara's sisters are white. Then they're Edomites. Then Lenny Kravitz. So you can't get caught up on complexion, because we know sure as hell that Hamites, that some Hamites could pass for Judites, some Judites could pass for Hamites, you understand? Whatever the case may be. All skin folk ain't your kinfolk. Complexion doesn't determine who you are. Like, realistically, think about it like this, right? You know that there's dark-skinned Ethiopians and light-skinned Ethiopians.
Nah, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
Nah, I didn't know that.
Well, they weren't, like, necessarily conquered by white people. There's dark-skinned and light-skinned in different shades in every single so-called, I mean, it's blackity-black folk like to say melanated races. You get what I'm saying? Like, you can find some dark-skinned Asians as well. Right, Filipinos, right. Dark-skinned, and there's light-skinned Filipinos. Have you ever seen them fight? Or say that we're not the same people? Same thing when it comes down to Ethiopians. They're not going to, because the problem is we are slaves in America. So we've been divided by color. We've been divided by sex, by man and woman. We've been divided by age, old and young. We've been divided by language barriers.
Right.
You understand? We could even speak the same language, but you understand, you from the north, I'm from the south. Or vice versa. And either way, we gonna be fighting. You know what I'm saying? I even go down to Texas. I'm at the shooting range with some of my brothers. You understand? And even in jest, you get what I'm saying? I'm down there lighting up this target, and they ain't gonna have this Yankee shoot better than us. So now, even in jest, we're separated from all that. Right. So at the end of the day, the complexion got to go out the window, because I guarantee you, if I ask them, I should have saved this for a damn caller who calls up. But if you ask them if an albino's black, they're going to say yes. So,
good point.
Why don't we get away from the pigmentation?
Mm-hmm. Good point. Good point.
You understand?
You touched on this as you were speaking earlier. I'm going to ask because somebody wanted to be asked. How is it possible that all the tribes were separated perfectly during the slave trade? You got Judah here, you got Benjamin there, and you got Ephraim here, and I felt like you kind of touched on it, but since it was one of the questions, I'm just go ahead and put it out there so they can get some clarity.
I didn't get a chance to go as in depth as I wanted to on that. There was so much information I was trying to get through, but in order to understand that, okay, we're so far removed from agriculture. You understand? So the best thing that I can use is, you know somebody who breeds dogs, breeds pit bulls, breeds Rottweilers?
I know a couple.
All right. Well, if they have a kennel, they keep their Rottweilers in one section. They keep their pit bulls in another section. They keep their red nose separate from their blue nose. Mm-hmm. You understand? Well, you know, it was called chattel slavery for a reason, because they treated us like cattle. So I'm going to give you an example of this. Slavery was business. Slavery was industry. So, eventually, once slavery started to become sophisticated, they started to disrupt our family structures. You understand? And that's not to say that as people were getting loaded on the ships or whatever the case may be, that families weren't separated or families weren't separated from plantations. But the point is that I'll give you a couple of examples. There's a people down in the Carolinas known as the Gullah people, right? The Gullah people is what they call themselves today. Originally, they came from Sierra Leone. The so-called white man took all of them in that area, their entire tribe, and brought them to the Carolinas, because you can go look this up in history. They tried to get the so-called Gadite, the so-called North Americans, to grow crops. The majority of Gadites are hunter-gatherers. Not saying that none of them knew anything about agriculture, but a lot of them just followed the herds and the buffalo. And that's why when we pulled that scripture in Deuteronomy, it said that Gad dwells like a lion. How does a lion dwell? He hunts. You understand? That's how a lot of them were. They were hunter-gatherers. So when that crop failed, they said, okay, we got to go find some people to be slaves who can grow rice. And they went and got the Gullah people. And they brought all of them together in order for them to go and grow rice. Well, that's basically the same thing. If you got and in order for you to understand this, and it's very hard if you're a black and Hispanic for two reasons. One, because we're the children of the Most High, nobody has more compassion than us. Unfortunately, we don't have that compassion on each other.
Right.
And the second thing is, because so much humanity was stripped away from us, we tend, and because we're not savages like the so-called white man, our oppressor, we look at people as humans. Even our oppressor, so many of us love him. So with that being said, you don't have to understand, like we have to understand that in slavery, you were an animal. You were chattel. You were cattle. You were an object to be used fit. So when they found a certain group of people who was good for a certain group of labor, they kept them together. And that's the same thing when it came down to the island of Haiti. I don't know if you know, Haiti at one time basically controlled the rum industry. Meaning that they grew all the sugar cane, like the whole reason as to why the Louisiana Purchase happened was because France was growing the food for Haiti inside America and shipping it over to Haiti. Because they weren't using Haiti to grow any crops but sugar cane. Because they were using the sugar cane in order to make rum, because rum was the biggest industry at that time. See, you look at Haiti, you see your brothers and sisters. The so-called white man who's running a country looks at Haiti and all he sees is crops and workers. So what do? You keep that tribe together and bring them there because they can handle that workload. And then they cut all the sugar cane. So they didn't separate us at first. They kept our units together in order to have us work more. And then as it got on and it became sophisticated, they found ways to control us. And ways to control us was separate the men and women, destroy our family structure.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot. That's powerful. Listen, I see you asking about when the phone line's going to open. I got two more questions on this list that I have that I need to ask. And then after I ask these two questions, we're going to open up the phone lines. But again, if you just came in and you were not here at the beginning, we made it perfectly clear, okay? If you call in, if you agree, disagree, or you're still in the middle, undecided, you need to do some more research, whatever the case may be, there's going to be a respect for sure. Don't call in. Hey, listen, the brother can handle himself. I ain't really got to tell you this, but we're going to keep it a respect for sure, you know what I'm saying? We're a family-friendly show here, so you call in, please do not disrespect my guests. I'm looking at some of the comments. Listen, some of the comments we're gonna block, and
I mean, listen, you don't listen. I personally, you understand, like I don't know if you know this, you understand. Commander General YAHANNA raises warriors. You get what I'm saying?
Like, that's why I just said the brother can handle himself. Trust me, I've seen it. I've seen it. But the thing is, we want to get edified because it's a lot of genuine people here actually looking to learn.
Right.
And we always have a few that come and cause a disturbance and then pull away. But we finna open the phone lines. I'm gonna go ahead and ask you
now. Yeah, I'm about to say let's finish off your questions and then we could definitely open the phone lines.
Done. Okay, so I got a question from somebody that says, let me see. Arsareth is shown on the map in Africa. It's not America. Can you explain it?
Okay, there's also a land called Arsareth in Turkey. You know what I'm saying? Now, here's what I want to know, right? If we're gonna base it off the scriptures, right? And I also broke this down in the lecture. First of all, there's certain things, okay, when you go and you get the Apocryphas, right now, the copies that they have are in Greek. So there's certain Greek transliterations that words change. The same thing happened in the New Testament. For example, I'm not sure if you know this, maybe you do. If you see OC in the New Testament, what does that actually translate back into Hebrew? Hosea. So why is it that Hosea, you understand, from Hebrew turns into Hosea, and into Greek it turns into Osei? The same way why Elias was Elijah. The same way why Jesus is Joshua. Because it's two different languages, so therefore it's a transliteration. So Arsareth is actually a mistransliteration of Arataza, or I mean, for some of y'all who speak, you understand what I want to call Yiddish or modern Hebrew, Aretz, which is another country or another land. So it didn't have an actual name. They just went to another country. Now, here's the thing. They went to another country where no man dwelt. You can't tell me that Africa was uninhabited. If you're telling me that Africa is uninhabited, then you're lying. There's no way around it. That everybody wants to sit there and talk about how the oldest civilizations were over there. Kush, Egypt, you understand, so on and so forth. The Nile Valley civilizations. Africa's been inhabited. Everybody wants to call it the motherland. And then you're going to tell me that the scripture says they went to never a man dwelt? Well, here's what I want to know. I'm saying that the 10 lost tribes are the people that you call Indians and Hispanics of Negro or Indian descent on their father's side. Who was in America before them?
Now, for the callers, that's a question for you when you call in.
Who was in America before them? Nobody. They went to a land where never a man dwelt. And that's why you find all these artifacts here. That's why you find fringes and borders of blue among them. That's why they were speaking Hebrew. You can't get around it.
Con. Powerful. Listen, last question. Then we're going to open the lines. Somebody said, when Christ said to flee to the mountains in Luke 21, how do you know, or how can you prove that the mountains were the mountains of Africa and not elsewhere? Okay.
Well, a lot of people like to turn around, right? And first of all, when Christ said that, this is something else too. Who was the prominent tribes who was inside Judea at that time?
You talking about Judah and Benjamin and was it Levi?
And Levi. Because the other tribes had already left because of the Assyrian captivity. Some 700 to 800 years prior to Christ coming on the scene. He couldn't have been talking to the northern kingdom. He was talking to the southern kingdom. So if he's talking to the southern kingdom, they had to go into West Africa. And that's why there's also archaeology on that. And that's why you have people like Rudolph R. Windsor, you understand, which everybody has Babylon to Timbuktu. That's just one historical reference. You understand? Never mind, you understand, the other artifacts, or never mind, you understand, what the hell is it called? When the Portuguese were over there. The Portuguese were over in West Africa, and they were turning around and saying the same thing that the conquistadors were saying when they found the North American Indians. They were like, yo, this group of people is separate from these Africans. They're following Judaism. So the very fact that you know is because of all that archaeology, all that anthropolítica data. So you can't say they went somewhere else unless where the hell did Judah, Benjamin, and Levi go? You tell me they're going to go further into Europe to flee Roman persecution when the white man was running Europe then? Doesn't make any sense. You're going to go to where he doesn't have an empire, or where his empire doesn't have a grip. And at that time, it was Africa. So they fled into West Africa.
Come on.